Welcome to the Gooder Podcast. I'm your host, Diana Freich. As partner and CMO of Retail Voodoo, an award-winning branding agency, I have met and worked with some of the most amazing women in the naturals industry, food, beverage, wellness, and fitness. And as such, I have decided to create the Gooder Podcast to interview these great people and subject matter experts, have them share their insights, passions, and expertise to help businesses all around the world become gooder. So today we get to meet Miss Zelda Beckford, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. She is the Vice President of Quality at New Chapter, a subsidiary of Procter & Gamble Personal Healthcare. With almost 20 years of industry experience in quality assurance, quality control, and regulatory compliance, and there's a long list more. She has a strong record for implementing systems and process improvements. Zelda is currently responsible for safeguarding quality standards for consumer packaged goods. How did I trip over that? Yeah, we're just going to say just, that's all she's doing, right? So welcome, Miss Zelda. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And you're in Boston? No, you're not in Boston. You're in Massachusetts. So I automatically think Boston. Whereabouts are you?
I'm actually in Amherst.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. In Amherst, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And my office is in Vermont.
Oh, but Vermont. Are you going into the office now?
I am, yes. So
you are.
So I do a hybrid between going in a couple days a week and then working from home in my home office.
Great. Well, I have to say there were, most people know this, or mostly guests know this. I like to do research to make sure that I am familiar with who I'm talking to. I don't like to come in blind into my conversations. And I found a couple of things that made me so excited about connecting with you. And that was, one, you're first generation American, meaning your parents were immigrants, and that's the same as mine. And we have such a crazy view of the world, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I often, a lot of my friends are also first generation, so we talk about this a lot. There's so many similarities, no matter where you come from, especially, the drive that you get from your parents just to be successful. You want to make them proud. They work so hard to get here and to give you everything, really. And, you just want to make sure that their efforts weren't wasted.
Just the work ethic that, that we have as first generation is really insane. I think we drive ourselves really hard. Part of it is that we want to make our parents proud. But the other thing is we saw our parents work so hard. So that's our standard. Right?
Exactly.
That's
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, definitely in my family, education came first, more than anything. And so I knew from a very early age that, there really wasn't a discussion about whether I wanted to go to college or not. It was an expectation. And I think the more schooling that I went through, the more I understood, why it was so important to them. And also, especially now, I know I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't, make the investment in my own education, with my parents pushing me as well.
Yeah. My parents didn't push necessarily as hard as some of my counterparts that I've met, but there was just an implied expectation that, so I think that if my parents would have pushed it, my success level would probably be one up from where it is now, which would be okay, but I'm fine. I feel like I'm firing at 120% all the time now already.
Right.
The other thing that I just thought was so funny and anecdotal was when you were working at Goop, there was this kind of what's your favorite white t-shirt? Just kind of this fun thing. It must have been about asking employees. And you had said that the Madewell tee was your favorite. Yes. I don't know now, but I have a dozen and half of them are white. That is the legit quintessential white t-shirt. I know this is kind of a weird thing to talk about on this podcast, but I'm just going to say that's the t-shirt. That's the
And, obviously, like Goop is, a luxury lifestyle brand. And so a lot of the other features on there were, white tees that were, upwards of like $200, $300. And so when they asked me, I was like, well, to be honest, like that t-shirt's just like $20.
Right.
So I'm like, and I have like so many of them in just about every color and in three sizes pretty much each, because I was buying them when I was going through like my weight loss journey.
Uh-huh.
And so every time I would go down a size, I would buy another one. So I have I have like every size.
Mhm. You're getting rid of some of them, I think now. You might be okay getting rid of those if you haven't already. That's what I always encourage my friends to do. Get rid of them. We don't want to see them in the closet.
Yeah. I can't get rid of it. It's sad. I should. I think I may have given, like maybe one away, but yeah, I still have I still have the majority of them.
Hilarious. Okay. Well, let's first of all, let's talk about New Chapter, right? I always like to give every guest an opportunity to share more about their company, and you coming in from a quality standpoint is, tell it from your point of view. What is New Chapter, and why does the brand exist?
So, New Chapter, is a very unique brand because they have a different manufacturing process. They use a lot of their vitamins are fermented. They go through a fermentation process.
Mhm.
And so that pretty much differentiates them from a lot of other vitamin supplement companies
Yeah.
in the market today.
Mhm.
Also, we take great pride in all of the certifications, the testing, where our raw materials come from, the processing, our manufacturers that we work with.
Mhm.
We really do, really, really, the team goes above and beyond what is, the requirements for manufacturing practices. And so, being in quality, especially for me personally, consumer safety is like my number one
Mhm.
goal. I'm always thinking up from the point of view of the consumer. I mean, we are all consumers of products. And so, especially things that we are ingesting,
Yeah.
you really have to be on top of everything, on top of your suppliers, your manufacturers, your production, your supply, everything. A New Chapter, they're rooted in, giving back to the planet, a holistic approach to, the care that goes into creating healthy individuals. And so that is what really drew me to wanting to join the team,
Yeah. Yeah, because this was a recent move, right? The last 12 months have been big moves for you culturally. Moving from Goop and the West Coast,
Mhm.
New Chapter and the East Coast. What's how are you holding up? Like, how's that going? And what were some of the things that you were taking in consideration as part of this move?
Right. So, I was, working for Goop in Santa Monica. I wasn't really thinking about making a move cross the country or anything like that. I was very much, deep in my work there. I was responsible for quality and compliance.
Mhm.
And so, one day, out of the blue, I got a email from a wonderful woman named Angela, who we both know. And, she really just kind of asked me about like the position, asked me about the job description, if this sounded, accurate and everything, and then asked me, if I would be interested in applying for the position. And I was like, sure, and it's funny because before that I had been getting, emails and offers and things like that throughout the summer, and I was turning them down or referring other people. I really wasn't in the mindset of, I wasn't open, but I guess, I don't know, it was kind of like, maybe it was Angela hit me at the right moment. And so and I didn't even know at the time that it was for a company in Vermont. So,
Oh, okay.
so it wasn't until I think after a couple of conversations that I realized like, oh no, it's going to be, on the other side of the country.
Mhm.
And I think it really was at the right time because, we have been locked in our homes from COVID for pretty much the past, uh, prior 8 months or
Yeah.
so. And I really was looking for a change of scenery. Like I had already started looking to move, possibly like to Arizona or Texas,
Okay.
because I have friends and family there. And then Vermont, I just thought, well, why not? It's like it can't be a bad place to live. And so then I started to do a little bit more research on the
Mhm.
area, and I learned, some things, some good and bad things, right, about southern Vermont and really where the company is located.
Yeah.
But I was concerned that, that they don't have a lot of diversity. I knew it was going to be very different from living in
Yeah.
California, in Southern California.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's pretty much an experience that I've had my entire life.
Oh,
Even though I've been in a diverse, area in California,
mhm.
the majority of my schooling, and my education has been predominantly in, you know, private Catholic. Majority of the class is white. I mean, I was in a sorority at LMU, and I was the only, Black person in my
Mhm.
sorority when I, pledged. So,
Yeah.
um, it's like I always picture my bid day picture because I'm right in the
Yeah.
middle. I'm the only one. And since then, it's different now, thank God.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the experience that I was so used to, even though like I know it's not normal.
Mhm.
But so I kind of knew what I was getting into by moving to this part of the country.
Well, the category itself is not terribly diverse right now. That's one of the objectives I'm trying to accomplish with my podcast is to kind of level up and normalize diversity of every kind in the leadership in of this natural space of whatever the place is. So I can imagine. I mean, even in California, I mean, if you're at Goop, maybe Goop might probably have a higher diversity ratio just because by nature of the brand. I can't speak to it myself, but you were at Herbalife and you were also at Beachbody.
Hmm.
I would over the years things have probably changed, but
Right.
it's like it was the opportunity itself and what you're going to be doing, what you're tasked with, that was really the draw for you. And Angela, for those that don't know, Angela is actually a recruiter and she specializes in these very specialized placements. And those of you ever get to meet her, you'll recognize she just is really great at identifying an opportunity and being able to figure out what's a good fit and what's not.
Hmm.
Yeah. So now I gave a pretty simplified description of what you do, but it's pretty deep and robust, and not like that we're looking for getting into the weeds per se, but maybe you can
Hmm.
talk about what is it that you do on a daily basis? What have you been brought into New Chapter specifically to do? Because I believe there was like a task. And as much as you can share, obviously we don't want to give away any trade secrets, but talk about that a little bit more.
Right. So, I I've been with the company for 6 months now.
Yeah, that's a long,
I knew, huh?
not very long.
Oh yeah, not very long, but I've had, it's been a hard 6 months for sure. I know that I was brought in to create change,
Mhm.
and the company itself is in the middle of, has been in the process of changing out, the prior leadership.
Hmm.
There was a lot of, I guess, bad practices and,
Mhm.
things that, were kind of counterproductive to the success of the business. And
Yeah.
so now there's a new leadership team in place. I basically completed, the last spot on the leadership team,
Okay.
and it's an even team, male and female, and everybody is awesome. I really really love working with them. We're all, we all are invested in, doing the best for the company and the employees. I think we're working really hard to change the culture,
Mhm.
and I know me personally, like the business environments that I've been in prior were very collaborative.
Mhm.
We really wanted to hear everybody's ideas, please bring yourself
Mhm.
to the group, right? And so that's what I push a lot with my team, where before that they didn't really get that type of support or guidance.
Got it.
And so so I hope that I'm doing, the right thing. And I know that that is what they asked me to come in to do, like to help to improve processes,
Mhm.
supplier relationships,
Mhm.
maintain all of our certifications, increase our supply chain,
Mhm.
um, our relationships with our contract laboratories. There were a lot of things that were kind of disjointed, and with change in leadership and positions, and turnover, there's a lot of gaps, there's things that need to be addressed. And so I'm in the middle of, doing a lot of that, as well as just trying to nurture the team, grow the team. Thankfully, like, I've been able to hire some really amazing people
Right.
to help, support the growth that the company is experiencing right now. Um, and just help the organization continue to grow and increase our capacity and productivity.
Mhm. So I don't know if it was a wholesale sweep of leadership change, but I always find that companies that when lots of change needs to happen, I don't know if that's exactly what's going on with New Chapter, but when there are some pretty big initiatives, and you have an opportunity to make some significant leadership changes, I find that um, the opportunity becomes exponential. The opportunity for success and growth becomes exponential because there's a lot of sacred cows, and we don't do it that ways that kind of get thrown away or lost
Mm-hmm.
through the process, and different practices and thinking and even communication styles get brought in, and it brings an opportunity. Have you, in your short time there, seen a dynamic shift with the teams below you, kind of, underneath the leadership? Are you seeing some opening up? Are you seeing people responding well? How's that going?
I think so. I know for my team in particular, I do try to get them together as much as I can. I have several um, like sub departments,
Sure.
within the quality team. And so I always want them to know what each other is doing, what the priorities are, what
Mhm.
the plans are,
Mhm.
and also, like, for changes, because sometimes, like, I just had a couple of interdepartmental changes, and everybody's not always aware of what's going on the other side of the fence, right? And so and especially now, where a lot of people are working from home, or sometimes we're in the office, but we're not in the office at the same time.
Mhm.
So it really makes it a little bit harder to make sure that everybody's on the same page every day.
Yeah.
When the traditional ways of working, where you would have, like, everybody in the room, like at Beachbody, we would have a production meeting every morning. Everybody's in the room, so we all hear the same information at the same time. And, in today's world, it doesn't really happen that way all the time.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
to remember to tell everyone, the same thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, I believe, where we discussed this. What do we think back to work is going to look like? And I think the general consensus is that the remote work is cute now. I mean, mandatory and much necessary, but there is a definite deep concern about maintaining or returning back to productivity pre-COVID, and having different people have different um, options in regards to
Mm-hmm.
remote or not remote. And I think there's going to be continual learning, an iterative or test, kind of a test model. Like, well, okay, let's try this for a month and let's try this for a month before I think teams and companies and organizations are going to be back to that place where they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I don't think a full-on hybrid model is going to be really effective for some of the larger organizations. I think there'd be productivity issues, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys are thinking about that right now.
We're definitely trying to figure that out at the moment. We've sent out some employee surveys, mostly to figure out how comfortable employees are feeling about returning back to work. But I mean, I've been going in, I'm fully vaccinated. I've been going in, and it is, it is a little, it's hard, because not everybody is there. It's an eerie feeling, when you just see empty desks everywhere. Um, and the last time that I was in an office, a full, office environment was when I was at Goop. And, you know, there is something to be said for being able to all be under one roof and have those common spaces where you're on the way to the kitchen or the bathroom or whatever, and you see somebody from a different, department, and you can, check in with each other or talk about projects that you're working on, or, and that is very much lost, in how we are working today, where you miss a lot of those opportunities to interact with people that you, because I usually see the same people on Zoom every day. And so it isn't until I get my whole team together that I'm actually able to see a lot of the people that I don't interact with on a daily basis. And then the same thing for other departments that I work with, mostly it's through email or if we're all on a Zoom call. But, it's kind of weird to think that there are people that, I haven't even met yet at my organization, or have no idea. I mean, I know they know who I am, but it's a lot of that is lost. So.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to touch base on the whole Goop thing, only because it's
How can
just
you not?
right. I know it's a phenomenon, right? It is what it is. That first of all, category disruptor. I think at first when Goop opened up, everybody's like, "Oh, that's interesting," and now everybody's like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like the shift, right?
Yeah.
And you went from Herbalife to Beachbody to Goop. And I remember there was even a little anecdotal story about from Beachbody to Goop, but like my notes were all very clear. And then I have my notes. It says, my question, how did you get to Goop? And then it gets all ridiculous. And I was like, okay, there's a little something to talk about here. So can you talk about how did you get to Goop? And was it this kind of fantastical place that I think some of us think it might be, or is it really just a business with a really fantastic brand facade?
So yeah, so my Goop, how I got to Goop is because while I was working at Beachbody, a woman by the name of Tina, who I love, 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 she reached out to me because she was working at Goop, and she actually was just like, hey, like, do you want to have dinner? And I'm like, sure, like, let's, so we finally had this dinner date. And at the dinner, she was explaining to me about the problems that they were having at the company.
Yeah.
And she asked me, like, if I could put a plan together for, like, what they needed to do, because they didn't have any quality at all. And so and they really needed help. And so I was like, sure, I mean, I would do anything for her. She's, awesome. So I, went home. I thought about all the things that she had told me that they were experiencing, and I just put a deck together for them. And, cause in my mind, I think slides. So I just put my thoughts out on a deck, and, sent it over to her. And then she, said, hey, can you come back and, would you mind coming in and like explaining it to the team? And I'm like, okay. So, I went and basically kept asking me to come back. And then I realized that they were interviewing me, at the time.
Oh,
And, yeah, because, I was basically just going through like, this is what you need. Like, I did a 2-year plan for them. Like, this is what your
wow.
quality, structure should look like. These are the elements of, creating a quality management system. And I outlined, the challenges that they were having and
Mhm,
what their risk mitigation, tools should be.
mhm.
And so, I just, was explaining it to the team, and then they basically offered me the position of, being their director of quality and compliance. And I was just like, sure, like, I mean, I already put the plan together, so I might as well just come and
Nice.
execute it.
Wow.
And so I ended up, exiting from Beachbody, and I took about a month off because
Mm.
I needed a minute,
Yes.
to hang out with my friends and go to Mammoth and just like decompress.
Yes.
And then started at Goop, and so my first day, I'll never forget. I like walk in, and I was going to the bathroom, and I ran into GP, and
That's what
and
everyone
she,
calls Gwyneth, hey?
yeah, yes, sorry,
Hmm.
yes,
That's okay.
and and so, she said hello to me and everything, and like for a second, I was just like, wait a minute, and I even told her this when I was leaving, because I knew in that moment that I was like in this like supernatural like environment. Like it was just like not, like I know it's reality, but like in my mind it was like, is this my real life right now? Like this is
University.
wild. you know and then just after that, I knew like this was going to be like a once in a lifetime experience. I mean, everybody there, I mean, I was always so, I wouldn't even say amazed. I was more like impressed with like the talent
Mhm.
there. Everybody that I worked with, I absolutely loved. Like, there wasn't anyone that, I didn't like working with.
That's
Um,
awesome.
it was a really, really loving, nurturing environment. And I know that that's like, you don't really say that about like your employer, but honestly, and I was definitely concerned about, because I had never worked anywhere that it was the majority of the employee base is women.
Oh,
And so, I've had female bosses before, but usually it's like male dominated, especially in the industry that I'm in. It's mostly male dominated. And, so it was just, it was a very special experience. I mean, and then when we moved, so at that time we were in Santa Monica in the bungalows that we called
oh,
it. And so that was also a very unique experience because our, we were kind of like bursting at the seams, right? Like the company was growing, we were hiring people, but we didn't really have enough space.
right.
And so we didn't have enough conference rooms. So I would be taking calls with like manufacturers, like in my car or like on the sidewalk. Like our hallway was the sidewalk. And then we ended up moving into a beautiful, brand new space just around the corner. And I mean, that office was, it was like unlike anything I think you could ever imagine.
Mhm.
Um, Beautiful, cashmere couches and
Yes,
just,
of
I
course.
mean, just a beautiful
Because
space.
of course, yeah.
Yes. But it was a very great environment. It was really, really, like it was inspiring to be there. Like you wanted to be there. I wanted to be there.
Mhm.
I mean, I had a hellish commute to get there from, I lived in South Redondo at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And so, traffic on the west side, it was like 2 hours
Yeah.
in the evening. But, I mean, you do what you have to do, for your job.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was great. And so, I think what people may think it
Mm.
is
Yeah.
like it's better than what you would ever think it's like, right? Like that's how I feel, I mean, and I tried to, when I was like thinking of my home office, building my home office here, like that's what I was,
That's fine.
trying to kind of recreate was that environment that I really miss.
Mhm. That's so, it's so, I don't know. It's crazy. It's awesome to hear that that those experiences exist. Like it wouldn't be as special if every brand was like that, right? You need to have those magical unicorns and then have an opportunity to be in the magical unicorn for a little while so that you can have that experience. And of course, I think the opportunities that were presented to you there naturally grew you, and now here you are tackling something a little bit bigger because of it, right? Like you're turning into, I like to call it both,
Yes.
like they're bringing you in when things need fixed or things need an upgrade, and a lot of
Right.
see, right?
Yes. There was a point in time when I was at Goop where I reported to the chief counsel and or chief legal counsel, and she had told me one day, because it was very hard to work there. Like as lovely as it was, as the environment was, it was very, very hard and a lot of stress. I was responsible for quality and compliance. I was basically a one person
Oh
army.
my god.
I was definitely worried about everything, you know, especially because, the company has a higher risk tolerance than other organizations. And so that was always a concern for me because I wanted to make sure that we were always doing the right thing. I always wanted to, my first conversation about anything was always with legal. I worked with a very wonderful woman, Lauren, who, I leaned on her a lot for legal
Mhm.
support. And so, uh, as hard as it was, my the chief legal counsel, Virginia, she had told me one day, like, I know it seems like, like it's like kind of like you're doing an impossible job, but one day you'll look back and you'll know that, like, you learned so much because you had to do it
Yeah.
all, and it's very true. I mean, at the time, I felt like I was going
Yeah.
crazy, but I know now, like, that prepared me so much for what I'm doing now and probably for other things to come because yeah, I didn't have a safety net or anything like that. It was like it was me and that was it, and I had to just kind of learn on the go, like, and take responsibility for every single
Yeah.
thing. And also my prior experience had prepared me for being at Goop as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of those jobs that I'll never
Yeah.
forget. Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. So we're going to jump back to today. I'll taking all of that experience to what's happening today, not only with New Chapter, but with the pandemic. And you're talking about quality control. You're talking about regulatory. We've had a really crazy last 12 to 18 months. Supplements have done pretty damn well
Yes.
in general terms. But I wonder what might be happening behind the scenes in regards to kind of some more of the technical things that that maybe retailers or consumers or what are you guys dealing with behind the scenes when we've got this crush demand happening? Probably the biggest crush that this category has seen in quite a while.
Right. Yeah, so, for New Chapter, it's a little different. Um I think there are a couple of things going on. They have a very loyal customer base.
Mm,
So, the New Chapter customer is someone who is well versed in the raw ingredients that kind of go into our products,
mm,
what they're expecting to see or the results that they're expecting to see from taking the products. And so I feel like that consumer base is kind of like our stable. We want to cater to them. We want to make sure that we're giving them what they need,
mhm.
and also introducing them to new forms of taking
Okay.
supplements. So
Okay.
we're going to be launching some exciting new products in the future.
Okay.
Um, if you can catch my hint there.
I got
Um,
you.
But then also, because of COVID and the influx of people wanting to invest more time and money in
Right.
their health, like, their holistic
Right.
development, whether it's their mind, their body, their spirituality, whatever it is. And so we have seen like new customers who don't really know what to take,
Right.
or know, how to consume vitamins, right? So
Right.
sometimes people start, they buy a whole slew of things and just start taking them all at once. And then, they get nauseous or something and they don't really understand why. And so, because I see the consumer complaints and things like
Yeah.
that too. And so, I am always making sure that our team is well educated and well versed in being able to answer the questions that consumers, kind of throw our way. We always try to be as transparent as possible
Mm-hmm.
in anything that they're asking about,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's our testing, our ingredients, our sourcing, and yeah, I feel like those are the two biggest kind of like things that we are fielding right now.
Yeah.
And then also just trying to innovate. So
Yeah.
innovation is something that drives the company as well. And so, like I said, like we're going to be launching some new, new forms of supplements. And I think that too, because the company has, they were privately owned for a period of time before they were acquired by Procter and Gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've gone through a lot of changes as far as like, kind of paring down the
Yeah.
selection, focusing on core brands.
Right.
And also, they just went through like a brand refresh,
Mm-hmm.
I think, last year. And so we're still doing that,
Right.
updating a lot of our packaging
Right.
and taking a look at all the claims that we're making and just making sure that everything's, that everything is accurate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like there's an education platform that needs to happen because of this influx of new consumers. I'm assuming that would that fall under your kind of jurisdiction?
So it doesn't fall under my jurisdiction, but I do communicate very closely with Charlotte, who does do our consumer education. She is like a human library about New
Really?
Chapter, and
Hmm.
I'm sure like if anybody looked her up online, like you could probably find videos or something of her. Like we did one with our lab that we contract with, Alchemist Labs, that does
Okay.
a lot of our botanical testing for us.
Um,
Um, and so she is really good at breaking down, just anything and everything about like products, plants, sourcing, just she's way better at explaining things than I am. And I
yeah.
try to, every time I talk to her, I try to soak up as much of the product education that I can,
Mhm.
because I'm also new, right? So I don't know everything about every product, but I do my best to try to understand
Right.
as much as I can, because I'm dealing with the back end of things, right?
Right.
Mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And from that regulatory side, I know some of that you're challenged, I'm sure, because you guys are making the products that you're making, and you're using the ingredients that you're using, and then supplements and nutraceuticals and even products that have these kind of components to them. There's a ton of new entrants in the market,
Hmm.
just again accelerated by COVID. And I wonder what the impact is for you in your role. Like, does that mean that you have to like double, triple make sure on top of what you've already been doing? Do you have to share information differently with the consumer? Like, what is that? What's
Yes.
happening there?
Yeah, so that has been a challenge recently. So
Mhm.
it's interesting because at my last company at Goop, I dealt with a lot of. So not only did Goop manufacture their own supplements and beauty
Mhm.
products, but also sold third parties. So
Okay.
I was responsible for vetting all of those third party
Right.
brands as well, right?
Of
And
course.
partnered with our brand partnerships team to
Mhm.
drive them into our e-commerce. So I had a lot of exposure to these smaller brands. I had to provide a lot of support to
Yeah.
them, and direction on, I couldn't tell them what they needed to be doing with their product, but I had to, basically give them a yes or no and kind of redirect them on where they needed to go in order
Mhm.
for their products to be compliant.
Mhm.
And so I learned a lot about the smaller brands and how a lot of them don't know, what's actually in their product, depending on where they're being made or how they're being made or where their ingredients are being sourced. A lot of them don't know where they're being sourced
Yeah.
or didn't have the documentation or
Yeah.
substantiation to support their
Mhm.
claims and things like that. So I learned a lot there.
Mhm.
Cut to today with the new chapter, there are a lot because of that influx of new brands, and there's that joke that everybody has a beauty company or a beauty
Right.
product or whatever,
Mhm.
um, because it is a, especially for beauty, it's a lot easier to enter the market.
Mhm.
um,
Really?
Oh yeah. so um so because it's not as heavily regulated as,
Awesome.
ingestibles are. And even and most consumers don't know this, but ingestibles, or sorry, supplements
Mhm.
are regulated heavily, more so than food, and more so than like meats and things like that, right?
Wow.
So that's a whole nother discussion. But so when you're dealing with dietary supplements, it's regulated by the FDA. Everybody knows the FDA, but there are so many other organizations that regulate companies, depending on your claims.
Yeah.
Just there, anyone can pull your product and have it tested,
Yeah.
and basically challenge you on your label claim. So those types of things, a company like New Chapter, we have to make sure that everything that we put on the label
Yeah.
is by the book and is accurate and meets label claim. And, the formula has to be, I can't go into all
No,
too
I
much, but,
know.
like it just, everything needs to be able to be substantiated. And so, I'm sorry. so, um, and so, when you're dealing with the smaller brand, the influx of the smaller brands, it basically makes us have to be that much more, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's like we now have to prove, even though we have already always been doing the
Yeah.
testing and verification
Yeah.
of our products prior to releasing them for commercial sale. We also have to now prove that to all these retailers, because now they are trying to create a safe gate basically
Yeah.
for their consumers to
Yeah.
ensure that whatever they're putting on their shelves is
Yeah.
not going to hurt
Yeah.
anyone as well.
Yeah.
So we've been, dealing with being able to comply with a lot of different programs. And that's also, it's also in the middle of changing the way that the industry operates right now.
Right.
Um, there's a lot going on behind the scenes just to ensure that consumers are getting what they're paying for. That they are getting product that is, pure. It's exactly what it says it is on the label,
Mhm.
and that no one's trying to, deceive you or anything like that.
Yeah. Super tricky, right? And not only do you have the new entrants, but you've got a bunch of new ingredients that sound so I'll use the word magical again, right? Like all of these new ingredients that they're new to us. I mean, they've been around in various cultures all over the world, but they're new. And I think everybody, the American consumer particularly, is always looking at the shiny new. And so there's a little bit of a challenge to kind of make sure you mitigate that risk.
Mm-hmm.
Then somebody for a brand like yours, it's not like you can just start bringing in all of these new trendy products. It doesn't make sense for
No.
your portfolio. But then to be able to make sure that you kind of up your game without getting too technical. Like nobody wants to buy a brand where all it is just like technical claims, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a brand there as well. So I'm sure that's that there's a straddle there that or a tension there that probably where you and the marketing team probably do a lot of this, I think.
I mean, and also it's always a tricky, balancing act,
Yeah.
with supply, with sustainability,
Yeah.
just, I mean, we've started to we're now doing regenerative agriculture.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome. Love that.
yeah. And so that too, just making sure that that's sustainable
Yeah.
for our customers as well. Because once you start down that path, the expectation, you build that expectation, and so you have to be able to deliver,
Yeah.
or else you'll lose your customer base. They'll turn
Right.
to somewhere else. And we really want to make sure that we're giving our consumers what they are asking for and what they want and what's good for them. And so that's where we spent a lot of time and energy and money, on different initiatives to be able to support our sustainability efforts. We're B Corp certified. So
Yes.
we like to do other partnerships. Yes,
I
with
love
other,
it. That's awesome.
yes, with other B Corp companies. And so, that's another thing that I also have been talking to the team about as well. Is what I learned from my prior company was the collaboration that you can do with other companies is really awesome. I mean, it's great to help build your brand,
Yeah.
and also, like, you can also be introduced to new consumers through
Yes.
different collabs. So
Yeah.
um so yeah, I mean, I feel like you said, the opportunity is exponential, and that's one thing that I really, really am excited about, is there's so much opportunity here.
Mm, that's so great. I love it. I love, I mean, you're tackling a lot of things early on, and I know that's why they brought you on board. Um, and it's, I mean, you just bring a whole host of new thinking. I think the power of the Goop experience specifically, where you were working with your own brand, your own manufactured brands, and you were counseling other brands, I think gives you such an absolutely powerful and unique perspective to bring to a place like New Chapter that probably has been insular for a very long time. And so you bring the experience, but you also bring that collaboration that you're talking about. And I can't think that I'm going to go double negative here. I think that there can be nothing but amazing opportunities ahead simply just by bringing your expertise into the organization. So good for them and exciting for you. Like, that's awesome. You'll have to eventually put on your LinkedIn that your job title is the wolf. I always I'm the wolf. I'm the wolf.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
well,
I
I
know.
want to wrap. We need to wrap it up because our time is getting to that place. But there's a few questions that I like to ask everybody, and the first one is: I love it when our guests are able to share some sort of, I call it a happy hour fact, is some sort of like, can you believe that, blah, blah, blah. Do you have an interesting fact or story that you can share with us?
I guess I always do my same. I always have this one fun fact, because I feel like um only certain people will know.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, I was on Romper Room. Did I ever
No,
tell you that?
you were? Oh my gosh, I probably saw you.
Yeah, I was on Romper Room. And so that was, so what we did, this thing when I was at Goop, like when GP introduces you for
Yeah,
the first time to
yeah,
everyone, she'll, introduce who you are, what your role is, and then you tell them your fun fact. And so I
yeah.
told them my fun fact, and like only GP and like one other person knew what
Oh,
Romper Room was. And I was like, oh yeah, I feel old here.
oh man. Oh man. That's a thing. Romper room. I'm just like suddenly back to my,
Kindergarten.
yeah, sitting on on the carpet, looking up at the TV. I'm right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so crazy. Okay. Um, So what this one will be a little bit different than what other women leaders, and it doesn't have to be in category, um, do you want to elevate, or just do you simply admire for the work that they're doing?
Oh, that's a hard one because there's so many. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I, there's so many women that come to mind. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I have been blessed with amazing bosses, women that have just been, in my life, or I mean, pretty much like every female boss that I have worked for,
Mm.
I've been able to maintain a relationship with,
Oh, that's awesome.
and can call at any time for
Mm.
anything. And so I think, and they've all been amazing, strong women.
Mm.
So, from my bosses at Goop to at Herbalife, even though she has since passed away, but I mean, I
Mm.
loved her. Um, and I always, when I worked for her, so she was my first boss at Herbalife. She was the director of quality. And I always thought, like, I want to not be her, but like, I wanted that role and I wanted to make her proud,
Mm.
And so, it's like where I am now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would have never even imagined. I just wanted to, have her job basically.
Right.
And so, um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's so many women that, and not even like public figures, but just like
Right.
people that have touched my life,
Yeah.
in different ways.
Mm. That's awesome. I don't know that everybody can say that, so that's pretty great. I wonder what brands or trends you might be following these days and why.
Oh, these are some good ones. I didn't even think about these things. Okay, so brands are trends. Um, a brand, it's kind of, well, I mean, there are some brands that, because I was at Goop, I was exposed to a lot,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's
there
fine.
are
That's good.
brands like Blue Land. I don't know if you know them,
I
but
don't.
they are basically they do like cleaning products that are, fragrance free, chemical free.
Okay.
They're in reusable packaging.
Are they
And
the
so
tablets that you put in water?
they make like dishwasher tablets that come in like a tin
Oh, great.
can, and they
Yes.
make
Okay.
powder, like dishwashing soap
Okay.
and hand soap and laundry detergent and things
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
So I have their stuff. Um, what other brands? It's so funny because I have like, I mean, I feel like we're all like like we're all brand. I mean, like obviously P&G. I have like P&G stuff everywhere because
Yeah, well,
P&G
for
is such
sure.
a like,
Mhm.
part of our everyday life.
Right.
And it wasn't until I started working for New Chapter that I realized how much P&G literally like it's like,
In your life.
yes, like every household has got to have at least one
Mhm.
item from P&G in
Mhm.
their home. Um, Trying to think, I can't even think of like, I
That's
mean,
okay.
there are obviously like, there are things that, because one of the things I had just talked about with the team at New Chapter was when I was talking about collaborations, and I felt like, um, there are things that we could do to expose the brand. And I was using the example of the collaboration between Gucci and North Face
Oh,
because they were like, it's like two brands that you wouldn't think of,
yeah.
coming together,
Yeah.
but it was almost like genius
Yeah.
because you kind of expose those customer bases to each other,
Yeah.
and their ad campaign was so, I mean, like I was just like, this is just, I loved it, and And so I think of like, when I think about those things, it's like those types of collabs inspire me, because that's what I want to bring to our brand,
Okay.
is thinking outside of the box,
Mhm.
of not just aligning with a company that is exactly like ours, but something that would be catchy for the
Right.
consumer to think, oh, and take a second look.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. See, I see that a lot with small brands working. There's a lot of like, like fit, fab, fun. There's
mhm,
a lot of those where the smaller brands kind of get an exposure by being kind of this aggregate kitting type of thing.
mhm,
But this, your example of North Face and Gucci, these very well established large brands, I think are kind of an extension of that idea of how can we do that for our brands. Obviously, nobody's going to get a fit, fab, fun $4,000 box, with a Gucci bag and
mhm.
and a North Face. So interesting that that's a model that you're identifying. I'll probably have to go and do a little bit of look around and see who else might be doing that. Nice, I like it.
Mhm.
How are you keeping yourself centered, sane these days? Are you? Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I moved from, Southern California. I was living at the beach.
Mhm.
I used to take a run to the beach every morning with my dog. And then I moved here basically at the beginning of winter. And so I was indoors for about 3 months or so.
Mhm.
And, so I had to, learn how to readjust,
Mhm.
and even though like I love snow and all that, because of COVID, I couldn't really go out and enjoy
Yep.
like winter activities. I just did not want to put my health at risk that way. So
Mhm.
I had to learn other things, like cooking everything that I like, and then working it off in the gym. so um so I basically, I do like to invest, because where I live, we have to reserve time, in the gym. So I try to
Okay.
use that time as just to, reinvest in myself, clear my mind,
Yeah.
and hopefully shed a pound or two in the process. But yeah, I think that, and like now that I'm vaccinated and I'm able to go out and meet people, I've been, putting efforts into networking more, getting out in the community. I love to like volunteer my time and, do things like that. So I've been reaching out to organizations
Mhm.
in Vermont,
Mhm.
in Southern Vermont, in Brattleboro, for opportunities to, get out in the community and meet people.
Awesome. Wow. Good. And if people want to get a hold of you, are you a LinkedIn kind of person or do you have a,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free to email me there.
Okay.
And yeah, I pretty much, I mean, I have the app on my phone, so I check it regularly.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Zelda, I want to thank you so much for your time today and so glad that we connected, and I'll have to reach out to Angela again, who made the introduction, and thank her. And really appreciate the work that you put into the community to kind of bring better products to the market and make sure we're all safe and sharing the wealth with other people. Like that's the part that is amazing. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This
Of
was
course.
fun.
Great. Okay, until next time, have a great day. This episode is sponsored by Retail Voodoo, a creative marketing firm specializing in growing, fixing, and reinventing brands in the food, beverage, wellness, and fitness industries. If your naturals brand is in need of positioning, package design, or marketing activation, we're here to help. You can find more information at retail-voodoo.com. And so there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel and share with your network. Until next time, be well and do gooder.